The film starts with an ant island. There is a big ant colony. Here we notice that she is an old ant who has 2 daughters. One is Princess Ada, and the second is Dot. Dot is too young and wished to learn flying. The big responsibility upon Ada is forthcoming because she is the next queen to be. Here all the ants were hoarding food. All were collecting food for grasshoppers, because they rule over them and they have to collect food for them. Here we're introduced to an ant named Flick who loves to undergo different experiments. But his experiments aren't quite fruitful for others. They're even quite harmful. This time Flick makes an instrument from enormous food could be stored. Along with this, he makes a telescope that he presents to Ata. She considers it useless and directs Flick to go out. Simultaneously, she comes to Flick and tells him that she has a lot of expectations from his instruments. One day there will be fruitful for us. Later on, an alarm starts to ring, which indicates the arrival of grasshoppers. All the ants rush towards their house in fear. Everyone leaves but Flick, because of his heavy instrument, leaves behind. He goes along with his machine, so he could keep his food with hoarded food. But because of his machine, a stone falls down, and all of his food glide into the water. Here we notice these ants make a deal with grasshoppers that they collect enormous food twice in a year. In return, grasshoppers would save them from giant insects. All the ants were waiting in the colony for grasshoppers to take their food and leave. But when grasshoppers don't get the food, they furiously get into the colony. Later on, they warn if they don't collect food, they'll ruin their colony. Not they'll protect you. Now in return, you'll have to hoard twice the food. Now the old queen appears and declares they couldn't, as it is about to rain and they've not hoarded food for themselves. Now the grasshopper warns her that he'll come again at the end of the reason when the last leaf would fall. Till then, if you couldn't hoard double food, they'll call off the treaty and leave after. They accuse Flick responsible for all this, because of him all the food wasted. For punishment, the Flick is called, and he has an idea if they could make a deal with bugs if they protect them from grasshoppers. For this, they have to go outside from the colony. This means suicide because out of doors there are a lot of birds and animals which could eat ants. No one is ready here for this. Later on, Flick announces that he'll go himself and carry out bugs for protection. The rest of the ants consider it a good idea to get rid of Flick. Either he bring out bugs or not, but he'll go and this would be better. Later on, Flick packs his luggage and goes to see Dot and his friends join. Dot was hopeful that he'll succeed in his mission. Now we notice Bug City, which is built under the trailer city. Here, different kinds of bugs exist. Few of the bugs have arranged a circus, which isn't working for a long time. For this reason, the owner of the circus fires them out of the job. Flip, when reaches, he becomes thrilled to see this world, that this is a separate world. Later on, he begs for help from huge bugs, but no one bothers him nor listens to him. On the other side, the terminated bugs from the job are sitting sadly, because they lost their job and doesn't know how to for each another job. Engrossed in the thoughts, a few bugs come to tease them. Meanwhile, they start to fight. This is another reason. But Flick considers them fighter bugs that could protect them. Flip goes to them and pleads for help. Other bugs consider without listening to him, agree with him thinking he might offer them a job. They're going towards the colony, where all the ants are busy in hoarding food. They have to collect the double amount of food for grasshoppers. Here Dot notices, with the help of a telescope, that Flick at a distance are coming with bugs. He doesn't believe that he is back. As they land, the rest of the ants secretly start to notice whatever is going on. They consider them 𝒸💔📃 bugs, but Flick introduces them to bugs. All the ants become happy to see bugs that they'll save from grasshoppers. Ada becomes impressed with Flick, that how he has brought such enormous bunks with him. They arrange a party at night, in which the tiny ants demonstrate them that how these bugs have to fight with grasshoppers. There is a possibility of dying bugs. Here all the bugs become worried that this isn't a job, rather a fight. Here, everyone is impressed with Flick and thanks to him because he has eased their difficulty. Here, Flick is thanking. Bug whispers in his ears that they're not fighter bugs but circus bugs. Listening to this, Flick becomes worried. He takes them separately by claiming a secret meeting. He tries to convince them, but they don't agree and say that they're not for the fight they're going. When they're going, Flick sticks with one of them. Dot notices them and starts to chase Flick by swinging with a big flower. When bugs notice Flick sticking with them, they wing down to get rid of Flick. Here, Flick glimpses a sparrow nest. He runs with fear that there's a bird that would eat them. The bird comes and runs after them to eat them. Here, Dot is also flying with a flower in the air. Now the bird comes near to eat it. Dot, with panic, leaves the bird and about to fall down. From the distant island, ants notice him but couldn't help him. Before bugs fall down, a ladybug from these bugs comes and holds him. Afterward, the bird starts to chase them, and they both hide in a crack of earth. Ladybug during landing enters the crack completely. The bird tries to eat them. Flick has an idea. He tries to take the bird's attention by lifting a caterpillar up. The bird, when notices, leaves and starts to chase them. Later on, Flick tried to bring out them with the help of giant bugs and bring out Ladybug and Dot. They hide in nearby bushes, where the bird can't get in because of thrones. Similarly, they all are saved and become here in front of all the ants. Ants medicate the ladybug later on. Ada tells Flick that she is a queen to be, and afterward they have to get rid of grasshoppers. Here Flick has an idea, that grasshoppers are as much afraid of birds as they are. He suggests a bug to make an artificial bird and to hide it in a nearby plant. Flick suggests to Ada. Later on, all the ants agree. In the next scene, we notice how they together make an artificial bird. In the end, it seems like a real bird that they hide in a hole of the tree so they could use in need. Next, we notice Grasshopper's colony, where they have started to take work from mosquitoes. Here, the leader of the grasshopper's brother is shown who is stupid. His friend suggests to him that they've already plenty of stored food, that they don't need to go to the ant colony. He agrees and says that he'll talk to the leader. Later on, he goes to his brother and asks that they don't need to go to the leader. The leader becomes furious and states that in the unity of ants there's a strength. If we stop to frighten them, they'll neither frighten nor work for the S in the future. And he doesn't want to, so we have to keep on frightening them and take work from them. Later on, they leave for the ant colony. On the other side, we notice how ants are celebrating happily. They're quite happy that finally they'll get rid of them. Flick states to giant birds if they want to go, they may because all the work is done. Afterward, the giant bugs negate to go and decide to stay with ants. Here they notice a sound. In the distance, they see a light and they suppose that the grasshoppers are coming. All the ants become ready to fight, that if the grasshoppers come, they'll have to fight. But here are not grasshoppers, but the circus bugs. Their owner wants to take them back to the circus. When they know that they're not fighter bugs but circus bugs, they become nervous. That they have made a mistake to believe Flick. They couldn't save us from grasshoppers, they only work at a circus. Along with the queen, all the ants become furious that how they have believed Flick, and how on their trust they were about to fight grasshoppers. After this, Ada asks Flick to go and never come back. Later on, the queen orders everyone to collect food as much they can, because grasshoppers would kill us like this. The last leaf falls too, and they realize that grasshoppers are about to come. When grasshoppers come, they notice no food, and the leader becomes angry. Afterward, they start to take some ants in their occupation. Here, ants hide their tiny ants in their club. Here, Dot listens to the leader saying that he'll kill the queen after taking food. Listening to this, Dot becomes confused and begs for help. He collapses with grasshoppers and he starts to chase. While running from grasshoppers, she tries to fly, but because if fragile wings, he couldn't. He reaches a stone. Under that, there was a tunnel. Later on, the grasshopper comes and pulls it down towards a tunnel, and she falls down. Grasshopper considers him dead. After his departure, Dot starts to fly. She reaches towards Flick and tells him everything. Afterward, Flick considers him responsible for all this. Because of him, ants are suffering. He becomes sad and isn't confident that he could help. Afterward, all the bugs suggest Flick to help the ants. Flick agrees. They know the owner of the circus wouldn't allow him to go. A spider bug imprisons him. They take the owner's bus, and reaching there they notice how they have tied Ata and Queen separately. And he makes a plan and asks the other bugs to take the van towards the leader and conduct a circus to entertain them so they could divert their attention. It happens the same. While circus, they free Ata and the Queen. On the other side, Flick along with other ants reaches toward the bird. Ants, Queen, and Ata notice Flick reach towards the bird. Later on, they release the bird so it could frighten them all. When the leader knows Ata and the Queen missing, he becomes furious. When they notice birds, there is chaos everywhere. All the ants pretend as it is a real bird. They act like they're fearing. One of the grasshoppers kindles the bird, and the secret revels as it wasn't real. When Flick comes out, leader becomes furious that how he tried to befool them. He beats Flick and thinks to kill him to set an example in front of everyone, that if someone teases them, they have to get a lesson. Flick gets up and tells us that we ants are united. If we all come together, you wouldn't rule over us. When the leader looks around, he looks numerous. Ants, he came terrified a little. After a while, rain starts, and the ants start to run. Taking advantage of this, the leader takes Flick and goes. The bugs start to run after, to escape Flick, but there is a lot of brushes in the way. Suddenly, Ata comes and saves Flick. They go down. Flick has another idea. He asks Ata to take him towards the nest of the same bird. Ata leaves him, and a grasshopper appears and a bird comes, but he doesn't bother because he considers it an artificial bird. This bird holds a grasshopper and feeds him to her children. There's a sunny day. Ata becomes a queen, and Ata and Flick become a couple. Flick with his experiments helps other ants and their colony become fine. The bugs leave and the brother of leader Grasshopper joins them too. Here the movie ends. How did you like this film? Please tell in the comment box. And subscribe to the channel to watch more such movies.